There is no hood like parenthood. Hi, I'm Kanika Chadda Gupta. I'm a former CNN journalist, mom of three, including twins, and host of That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast. Now, if I had $1 every time I heard, gee, you have your hands full. On my show, I interview change makers on their life lessons, legacy, and superpower of intuition, which I call our mom sense and dad sense. I've had the privilege of working with Mom 2.0, March of Dimes, and the White House, and have had some pretty amazing parents on my show.
Hey, what's up? I'm Kelly Rowland.
Hi, this is Chelsea Clinton.
It's me, Bobby Brown. Can't wait to share my story.
That's Total Mom Sense is a production of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube so you never miss an episode. To join my tribe, visit that'stotalmomsense.com and follow me on Instagram at Kanika Chadda Gupta. Now let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to Food for Thought, a special podcast series on That's Total Mom Sense, presented by First Water by Akvile, mineral-rich Nordic spring water made for new moms and babies. I'm your host, Kanika Chadda Gupta, journalist and mom of three, including twins. In this series, we're speaking with doctors, experts, and healers who are helping us reclaim our kitchens as places of nourishment, empowerment, and joy. We'll be answering your questions around what should you buy organic, tonics to help you cleanse your system in the morning, spices you should use on the regular, what to eat when you're traveling and on the go, what to eat in your 20s versus menopause, specialized teas to perk you up and wind you down, and must-haves in your kitchen. This is Food for Thought. Bon appetit! To celebrate Breastfeeding Awareness Month, and with this summer heat, this episode is brought to you by First Water by Akvile, the first naturally mineral-rich, never-filtered bottled water in the U.S. that's certified safe for infants under 6 months when mixed with formula. Founded by a mom of three, Aiste Minute, First Water follows European postpartum practices where nursing water is essential. As many new moms know, breastfeeding uses up to 25% of the body's energy, and staying hydrated is critical. But most bottled waters are filtered or purified, stripping away the very electrolytes and minerals your body needs to recover and thrive. First Water is different. Sourced from a unique spring, it retains its natural magnesium, calcium, and electrolytes, has a natural pH of 8, and contains absolutely zero nitrates or nitrites. That means it supports faster hydration, better oxygen absorption, digestion, and overall wellness for moms, babies, and the entire family. Whether you're mixing formula, nursing around the clock, or simply looking for cleaner hydration, First Water is setting a new gold standard in maternal and infant wellness in the U.S. Learn more at getfirstwater.com. That's spelled get, the number one, ST, water.com. Because your baby's first water should be the best. Welcome to That's Total Mom Sense. This is our very special Food for Thought series, where we dive deep into how to empower families and lead with intention in their homes, their kitchens, their bodies, and their wellness. Let's begin with this truth. Over 80% of women experience hormone-related symptoms in their lifetime, and yet most go undiagnosed or untreated. Menopause affects nearly half the global population, but it's still steeped in silence and stigma. And meanwhile, modern science is finally catching up to what ancient cultures knew all along, and that food is medicine, especially spices. They can not only help us survive, but thrive through hormonal shifts, inflammation, and everyday stress. Today's guest is at the forefront of this movement. Dr. Kanchan Koya is a molecular biologist trained at Harvard Medical School, turned integrative health educator, cookbook author, and founder of Spice Spice Baby. She's a wife and mom to her darling kids, Ilhan, who's 12, and Noor, who's 8, and they're based in Brooklyn. I know that my audience already knows Kanchan very well because she is super active on Instagram. Her handle is at Chief Spice Mama. Kanchan, thank you for bringing the spice back into our life and joining me on That's Total Mom Sense today.
Kanika, thank you so much. It is an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you. I want to share how we met because I really just love the synchronicity sometimes. But it was through two of our common friends. First is Anita Chatterjee. We connected at an event that she was hosting in New York City. And Anu Segal is another one. Anu is a sweetheart, and she was like, "You have to meet my friend Kanchan." And she organized a dinner for us, and we hit it off right off the bat. So I'm so glad that you're in my world.
Same, I echo that back to you. Anita and Anu, both master connectors. So, yeah, grateful for them and this amazing connection now and our friendship.
Yes, yes. I want to share with you how I just love your name. Firstly, Kanchan reminds me of the fun jingles we used to hear growing up in India. I'd go every summer, but Kanchan nonstick cookware was the the cookware of choice. And I still remember the jingle. It was Kanchan nonstick cookware.
Kanchan non-stick cookware. Simply impeccable.
And Koya is like the sweetest part of our mithai and barfi. It's like the curd and whey that we enjoy. And you're super sweet. And so it's just, I feel like marrying the two, I think it's like you were meant to do this work. It was destiny.
Oh my gosh, you're so sweet. And it's so funny because, yes, I remember the jingle and I remember the ad. And I am so anti nonstick cookware now. So
Right.
we can get into that, which is just funny and ironic. And
Yes.
then Koya is my husband Sharif's last name, which I took on, even though I am deep down a feminist and would have happily kept my maiden name. But my maiden name is so long. Every time I make a reservation online, I have to literally spend 5 minutes giving out my maiden name. So I'm like,
Yes.
for pragmatic reasons and because I like the name Koya, we're going with Kanchan Koya. So here we are.
It works. Oh, I love it. What's the maiden name? Now I'm curious.
Mir Chandani. I'm Sindhi.
Oh, I love that. Okay, yes.
Just long,
Yeah, it's
long.
yeah, yes, yeah. It's like M for Mary, I for India. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you mean. My Masi is married to Mulchandani, so we have a huge family in Lagos and London and Bombay through marriage. We're Punjabi, but love the
Yep.
Mulchandani clan and anything Sindhi. We're neighbors after all. That's
Yes.
so fun. Oh my goodness. Now tell us about your childhood. I want you to take us back to what it was like growing up, in India and around so much family.
Yeah, so I grew up in India for the first 18 years of my life before I came to the US for college, and then I've stayed here ever since. So growing up in India was really special. I was in Pune, which at the time was a small town. Now it's, I don't know, like 10 million people. Um, but it's still, smaller than Mumbai, Bombay, Delhi, whatever, all the big cities. I grew up in a loving family that was food obsessed and spice obsessed, like most Indian families. So I grew up, with the scents and the flavors of delicious food, but my mom was always very health conscious and was always trying to make sure we were getting our fruits and our vegetables and like eating our protein. And my grandmother, like most grandmothers in India, would always turn to the spice box whenever illness struck. So, sore throat, haldi doodh, not the
Mhm.
milk that they sell here, but like
No.
the dadi ji haldi doodh.
Yes, yes, it's not a latte.
No, it is not like a pale yellow, beautiful. I mean, it is like so
Yeah.
much turmeric that it's hard to take down as a kid. But
Yes.
yeah, I grew up with a lot of Ayurvedic traditional wisdom integrated into my family, like most Indian families. And to be completely honest with you, I thought it was woo woo. And I thought of myself as this like aspiring scientist. I knew at about age 13 that I was very interested in DNA and molecules and biology, and I was going to study biology. And so I was like, what is all this like haldi, shaldi? Like, I don't know all this stuff.
Yeah,
So
totally.
yeah, I totally thought it was not steeped in anything real. So yeah, that was my Childhood, very, very in love with food, but also very interested in health, I would say, because of the influences around me. And then, of course, fast forward to my PhD and Haldi makes a reappearance. We can get into that.
Yes, I know. That's what I wanted to segue into, the fact that Haldi actually showed up in your research for Harvard.
Yes. So I ended up at Harvard Medical School for my PhD in molecular cancer biology, and my lab was looking at the potential of natural compounds found in nature to potentiate the effects of chemotherapy in breast cancer. So,
Mm.
we give chemotherapy for cancer, and we're always looking to improve the efficacy so that we can reduce side effects, reduce toxicity, those kinds of things. So, in that screen, one of the molecules was curcumin, which is the bioactive compound in haldi, turmeric.
Mhm. Yes,
And I
yes.
was a collaborator on this project with a postdoc in my lab. And I was like, wait, are we really looking at turmeric in the screen? That is, wow. Like, yeah, it was a real full circle moment for me as a Desi aspiring scientist, kind of like just like skeptical about some of this
Mhm.
ancient wisdom. And yeah, I was like, wow, that's wild, basically.
Yes.
So, yeah, and now we know from a ton of research that curcumin and other bioactives in turmeric and other spices do have real physiological effects in our bodies, whether it's calming inflammation, improving gut health. So that was really like a big moment for me. I didn't actually do anything with Haldi just yet. I was finishing up my PhD. I dabbled a little bit in biotech and pharma, but I was always deeply interested in food as a source of preventative health, as a tool for preventative health. And so that's what kind of really inspired the birth of Spice Spice Baby a few years later.
That's incredible. I love that. And I think, why I have so much respect for you, and I can speak for, my entire audience and counterparts, those who knew you from before and those who are getting to know you now, is that you understand the science and you're able to distill it in a way that's palatable for us to like literally absorb. It's like, oh, wow, this, ailment can be cured by this mineral or vitamin that's found in these foods. It's incredible that you are able to do that. And I think that gives you so much more credibility than, I authored a cookbook, like here are my faves. And yeah, I think I respect the science more than anything.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I try because there is a lot of misinformation out there. And unfortunately, it causes a lot of confusion in people's minds about what food can and cannot do. So I'm very, very careful when I talk about the impact of food on health, when I talk about what the science actually shows versus what it doesn't. So, yeah, the truth, as they often say, is in the nuance. It's never in the extreme kind of black and white. And unfortunately, on social media now, we have a lot of extremes and a lot of oversimplification. So yeah, I see my role as kind of just trying to like separate fact from fiction and tell it like it is.
You do it brilliantly. Thank you. And being this chief spice mama, let's get into just the spices. What are ones that we should all have in our kitchen cabinet? What are their properties? And, when should we be taking them? This is a big, big loaded question, but you take it where you want to lead us.
Yeah, so I mean, I think, for the South Asians in the audience, a great starting point is your spice box, your spice dabba
Yes.
that we inherited from our ancestors that we probably think is like nothing special. But the reality is, when you start to look at the basic spices that are part of literally every Indian kitchen, there is turmeric. We've talked about turmeric and its bioactive compound curcumin, but there are other bioactives in turmeric that are being studied or not yet studied, which is why I always say use the whole spice instead of like a curcumin supplement, which can be
Mm.
tempting because when we hear something is good for us, we're like, more is better and a supplement must be even better. And there are uses for a curcumin supplement in consultation with your physician, the right quality. There was a recent big scare in the news. People might have heard about a woman who showed up with liver failure because she was taking all these like high dose turmeric supplements. So it's always good to be mindful that supplements are not regulated by the FDA. And you do need to understand the source, and you do need to understand how it fits into your overall health picture. So don't just go taking random supplements. But there are studies, for example, looking at turmeric supplementation for the benefit for the relief of like osteoarthritis. But the point is, when we look at the whole spice, it comes with these compounds in a food matrix. It's not just an isolated compound. Nature is never about like, here's one magic bullet.
Yeah.
It's about a much more holistic picture. So, starting with haldi in your spice box, using it regularly, 1 to 2 teaspoons a day, peppered throughout the day in your lentils, in your eggs, in whatever preparation that strikes your fancy. If you want to make your dadi ji's haldi doodh,
Yeah, definitely in the winter.
yeah, exactly. It's a great way to get regular exposure to those compounds that we call antioxidants, polyphenols. And the reason those compounds are so potent is because at a cellular level, they reduce something called oxidative stress. So when we go through life and our cells divide and grow, which is a natural part of our physiology, our biology, in the course of that, we do accumulate something called oxidative stress. It's not a bad thing, it's just a byproduct of like regular metabolism. But
Mhm.
over time, too much of that buildup can start to cause accelerated aging and even disease. And so, constantly making sure that you're relying on Mother Nature for these beautiful antioxidants that come in spices, but also in other plant foods, is just a great strategy to kind of defend yourself against this oxidative stress induced, life.
Yes.
Um, and one thing to note about spices, which I think people sometimes don't appreciate, is that of all the foods out there, they are some of the most highly concentrated in these antioxidants and polyphenols. So, yes, all your rainbow colored vegetables are going to give you these compounds, but spices are particularly concentrated in them, which is why, even in small culinary amounts, they can have beneficial effects.
Mm.
Yeah, so turmeric, cumin, coriander, chili, the trifecta that most everybody uses in pretty much every preparation. Cumin has a compound called cuminaldehyde. There are other compounds. It is thought to be great for inflammation management and gut health. Everybody knows that if they have an upset stomach, your mom might make a khichdi in South Asia and India and put a little bit of jeera or cumin. And that's
Right.
because it's thought to have a really balancing effect on the gut. Coriander is actually showing promise in blood sugar control. So I know a lot of South Asians struggle with metabolic dysfunction, pre-diabetes. So leaning on some of these spices that can help with blood sugar management, in addition to, making sure you're mindful about your overall dietary pattern, your lifestyle, movement, sleep. None of these are meant to be like magic bullets, like you take have a coriander tea every day and it's going to solve all your problems. No, I want people to think about this as like part of a holistic game plan. So, coriander, again, great for digestion, great for blood sugar balance, actually, also great for perimenopausal and menopausal women for water retention. Because
Wow.
as we go through this life transition, we start to experience some fluid shifts because of the hormonal, let's say, roller coaster.
Yeah.
Women will often come to me in my health coaching practice and say, I am puffy all the time. Like I just feel bloated. Like I'm
Right.
holding all this excess water. Coriander has a mild diuretic property. So if you make a tea with some coriander seeds, some fennel seeds, some rose petals after dinner, it's like really soothing. It's a beautiful ritual and it can help with digestion and puffiness. And then chilies. Okay. There are actual studies suggesting that populations that regularly consume chili peppers live longer.
Oh my goodness. I
And if
my food is so pica bland. I just can't handle it. It's
it's
like
okay, you're fine. So again, it's not like if you're not eating chilies, like but the point is that if you enjoy chili peppers, they are thought to be really beneficial because they have a
Mm,
compound called capsaicin, which is a potent anti-inflammatory.
okay.
And there's actually a recent study that was very interesting, which was that if you add chili peppers to food, it actually causes people to kind of slow down, eat more mindfully, and prevents overconsumption. I was cracking up because me personally, if my food is spicy, I just eat more of it because I love it so much.
Yeah.
So I was going to refute the study claims, but the point is that, spices interact with our taste buds, our metabolism, our appetite hormones, our hunger hormones in really, really interesting ways. So I already mentioned turmeric, cumin, coriander, chili. Those are already in a spice dabba. Fennel is
Mhm.
another great one. It is great for digestive distress in perimenopause and menopause, especially our gut microbiome changes and we start to experience a loss in diversity. So fennel can be really, really potent to help with gut issues, bloating, digestive distress. Sauf at the out when
Soft,
you
yes.
exit, yeah, you exit any Indian restaurant. There's usually a bowl of sauf. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And then one spice that I love to introduce to people if they don't know it already is sumac. I always joke and say that if I were going to design the perfect spice box, it would be my Indian dabba plus sumac.
Oh my
Sumac
gosh.
is a spice from the Middle East. It's kind of like purplish, like a deep burgundy purple, and it is packed with antioxidants like anthocyanins, which are great for brain and cardiovascular health, and it's delicious. It's like lemon without the liquid. You can sprinkle it on your salads, your hummus, your eggs, your avocado toast. It's just a pure delight for the senses, and it's also great for you. So, those would be some good starter spices.
That is excellent. I love it. And it's all things that we can, get readily. And for those of you who aren't South Asian, Google Patel Brothers or South Asian grocery store near you, and you will find all of these spices there, and even in their raw form. I love, the same way we have ginger. I love the turmeric in its, raw form, the sabat haldi. So you can find that there and cook with it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing to note is if you look at the way most of our traditional recipes are constructed, they usually contain more than one spice, right? They
Hmm.
contain spice blends. Either we're adding like our haldi, turmeric, cumin, coriander, chili, maybe some fenugreek seeds, there is something quite special about blending spices because you get this synergistic or additive effect when it comes to benefits. So, a study out of Penn State basically showed that a spice blend in a meal was able to calm markers of inflammation after that meal. So, if I can leave people with another take home, it's yes, use spices regularly in your food, but also try to use combinations, which also makes it more delicious and more interesting anyway.
Yes, absolutely. So, even if we're eating all these amazing raw veggies and produce, there is a way to prepare it to get the best benefit. So, like when to actually chop and prep. Do we leave it out? Do we refrigerate? Do we, blanch? Like, what do we do with certain produce that actually gets us to extract uh, the most vitamins out of it?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I think it depends on the specific type of produce. So, for example, spices in general do really well when combined with heat and a little bit of fat. And again, if you look at the way our ancestors cooked with spices, they often added oil or a little bit of ghee, some sort of fat source, warmed it up, and then added the whole spices or the ground spices. So, whole spices are going to last a lot longer. Ground spices are already ground, exposed to the elements, and so they will kind of over time lose their potency. So that's one thing I tell people: buy your spices whole. If you're buying them ground, use them within 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
Store them away from heat and light because they will interact with the elements and start to lose their potency, and combine them ideally with a fat source. Turmeric, especially, does really well when combined with a little bit of fat and black pepper. That helps the absorption of the curcumin, the bioavailability of the curcumin. Now, when it comes to other produce, some hacks. So, for example, tomatoes. When you eat raw tomatoes, you are getting vitamin C, which is great. But when you cook them, you actually activate an antioxidant compound called lycopene, which has shown a lot of promise in cancer prevention, especially when combined with a little bit of olive oil. Think of your typical Italian grandma now
Mm.
making just simple garlic, olive oil, tomato sauce. So, my biggest tip would be like, don't get stuck in a rut. Okay. Like if you're always eating like 6 cherry tomatoes to try to get your like little like vegetable points in, sometimes mix it up, smash them up, make a tomato sauce. Sometimes, your greens are best enjoyed raw. Sometimes they're actually best enjoyed steamed with a little squeeze of lime juice, because the lemon or the lime is going to help you absorb the iron from the greens. So there is all these little like things that happen when we don't get stuck in a rut, and when we diversify the ways in which we prepare our produce, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. It does. There was one that you shared in particular. I feel like it was broccoli or something. You're supposed to chop it, leave it
Mm.
out, right?
So yes, I love that you brought up broccoli. Okay, so garlic has a beneficial compound called allicin, which takes a little bit of time to develop. So when you're chopping your garlic, chop it, leave it for 10 minutes, let the allicin fully develop. And ideally, enjoy it in a raw preparation, like a salad dressing or a pesto, to really keep that allicin intact. But if you're going to cook with it, at least let it form as much allicin as possible. So, prep your garlic, leave it for 10 minutes, do the other things, and then cook with it.
Okay.
And then broccoli is really interesting because all cruciferous vegetables contain these really powerful compounds called isothiocyanates. Sulforaphane is one of the main ones that's talked about as kind of a cancer preventative agent. So, yes, you can chop broccoli really fine to kind of activate the sulforaphane, let it sit for a little while. But if you're going to cook it, which will degrade the sulforaphane a little bit, you can combine it with raw mustard seed powder, because mustard seeds actually come from the cruciferous vegetable family as well. So you're
Uh-huh.
almost like supplementing the enzyme that will allow the sulforaphane to be fully absorbed. I know that's like a mouthful of biochemistry and chemistry, but the point is these food combinations can actually make an impact.
Yes, yes. And that's the thing that, if we just have one little tidbit and pointer on how best to prepare it, chop and leave it out, now we know what to do to just gain the best benefits. So that's great. Back to school season is here, which means it's time to label everything. From water bottles to jackets, Name Bubbles makes it easy to keep track of your child's belongings with durable, dishwasher safe, and laundry safe labels. My three kiddos love choosing their own designs. Think unicorns and dinosaurs and more. And there are packs for daycare, school, sports, and even college. New this season, the custom clothing stamp. It's a quick, no sew, no iron solution that works on everything from onesies to swimsuits and lasts for over 40 washes. It's kid safe, customizable, and even comes with refill kits for long-term use. Name Bubbles is mom-owned and proudly made in the USA, helping families stay organized for over 15 years. Check out my podcast interview with the founder, Michelle Brandress, from the archives. Visit namebubbles.com and use code MOMSENSE15 to receive 15% off your order. Happy labeling! Let's talk about some of your very functional recipes from your book, Spice Baby. Tell us a bit about it.
So Spice Baby was born, the platform and the cookbook, because I was a new mom. My son was 6 months old, and I started feeding him solid foods. And I started adding spices to his foods because I wanted him to enjoy the gut health benefits, the anti inflammatory benefits. And everyone was alarmed around me in my community of moms in New York. And they felt like, wait, how come you're giving kids spices? Isn't that like not allowed? So I wanted to debunk some of these fears and myths around kids and spices, but I also wanted people to eat these kind of potent plant medicine foods, if you will, regularly on the family table. So
Yeah.
Spice Baby has a little chapter for baby food, but it's mostly a family table cookbook. And in every recipe, there's an explanation of why I have added certain ingredients, why we're using certain spices, why we're combining them in certain ways. Because, we want to think about every aspect of health. We want to think about gut health, mental health, cardiovascular health, metabolic health. And luckily, all of these foods and spices can impact all aspects of our health in some really cool ways. So, yeah, I wanted to create a book that felt like it was like functional foods, but really vibrant and fun.
Yes. And I actually love two of your recipe. One is your classic chicken curry. I follow that. I feel like it's all in the tadka, in the spice blend that you actually cook the chicken in and how you marinate. So, any fun hacks? We'll link the recipe for sure with this recipe in particular.
Yeah, so this was my grandmother's recipe. It's very nostalgic for me. And I wanted to create a quick and easy kind of home style chicken curry that people can do on busy weeknights. Because let's be honest, we're cooking for our kids, our families. We usually have 30 to 45 minutes to get dinner together, if that. So it's
Hmm.
meant to be simple, quick, and it's meant to be packed with all those anti inflammatory, antioxidant rich spices like turmeric, cumin, coriander, chili. It has a little bit of yogurt for creaminess. A lot of people are now being mindful about protein intake. I also love that the curry can work really well with something like an extra firm tofu or even paneer if you're a vegetarian. So
Hmm.
it's versatile. It's a great way to pack in protein, but also some of those antioxidants.
Yes, yes. And it's just a family favorite. And then chai, that's my rocket fuel. More than coffee, I am just a cha girl through and through. And I love that you shared that on your page too. Of course, the classic double boil, but you really made sure that the spices are being steeped first and added some in there that I didn't know about, like the anise. So tell us about those.
Yeah, so I created the chai recipe in my book using a lot of the classical chai spices like ginger, cardamom, cloves, black pepper, fennel, but I also added things like star anise because star anise is really interesting spice. It contains a compound called shikimic acid, which is the starting point in the synthesis of Tamiflu, which is one of our most successful antiviral drugs. And very often in the fall, the winter, we're trying to kind of support our immune system. We're trying to ward off infections from viruses. So I always pull out my antimicrobial chai recipe, I call it, just to support my immune system, keep inflammation in check, but also have some of these antimicrobial effects. I also love the flavor of star anise. It's very often used in Chinese or Vietnamese cooking. It adds a real complexity and depth to the chai. So, yeah, that was the rationale. Since we are putting all these amazing spices together, why not add some that really kind of give you bang for your buck?
Yes, yes. And all these recipes are just so family friendly. Could you tell us how you kind of integrate? You don't have to necessarily like sneak in, but you're kind of sneaking in the spices into your kids' foods and how they like it.
Yeah, so let's start with the chai, right? Like often my kids will be, someone will bring home a cold from school or whatever, and I'm like, okay, I make the chai. I don't actually add black tea leaves. I add naturally decaffeinated red bush or rooibos tea leaves, and I make them a chai that is decaf because I don't want them bouncing off the walls and
Yeah,
not sleep midnight.
right, right.
So yeah, I'll adapt it to the kids. I mean, the chicken curry, I always tell people if your kid is not into super hot and spicy food, you can still use all the aromatic spices like the cumin, the coriander, the chili, the sumac, the cinnamon, but the garam masala, but you can skip the red chilies. They'll kind of get to that point. There's no rush. But this is the biggest misconception people have that, oh, I can't eat spices because I don't like spicy food, but most spices are actually not spicy. They're aromatic and you can wait to enjoy the spicy ones until the kid's palate is ready.
Yes, yes. And then what about like snacks and smoothies?
Yeah, I think smoothies are such a great way to pack in spices because very often people think if I need to enjoy these spice polyphenols and these benefits, I need to cook these elaborate meals. But you could be making a smoothie with some frozen blueberries, your favorite nut milk, a little bit of chia seeds and flax seeds if you want your protein powder, and then cinnamon, which in the research has been shown to balance blood sugar and improve insulin sensitivity, a little bit of cardamom, a little bit of ginger to boost circulation. So there's so many ways to use smoothies and snacks as opportunities to add in more of these spice antioxidants.
Yes. Okay. And now I want to switch gears and just talk about women's health because I feel like you are just a wonderful proponent of preventative care and all things that women should do so that they don't have to turn to artificial. So, as women, I think that two major transitions we go through is matrescence and when we actually get pregnant, and then the postpartum, which I feel like is like 10 years, and
Mhm.
then, and then perimenopause and menopause. Uh, there's puberty before that, but I think the ones that we really, want to just double down on and we actually actively care what we're putting in our bodies are those two phases. So, what are some things we should know and spices or foods or whatever it is that we should be taking on the regular, starting with pregnancy first?
Yeah, so pregnancy obviously is such an important time because everything we're ingesting is impacting the health of the growing baby. And so, the goal is twofold. One is to continue to eat that very balanced, diverse, whole food based dietary pattern that has a lot of antioxidants, rainbow colored veggies, good quality protein, healthy fats. Really, really important for the developing baby. So, if you are someone who enjoys fatty fish like salmon, that is great. The omega 3s and that are going to be really, really beneficial. If you're not someone who enjoys fatty fish, flax seeds, chia seeds. So adding in healthy fats in different ways, really making sure that you're eating balanced meals and really making sure that you are exposing yourself and the fetus to a wide variety of flavors.
Mm,
Because something that people don't always realize is there is actually really good evidence that the baby's palate begins to develop in utero. So, whatever you're eating, if you're going to be extremely picky and restrictive, and I know, pregnancy can come with nausea and things like that. So, I want to be empathetic to those concerns. But however you can get a wider variety of these whole real foods, reduce ultra processed foods and focus more on single ingredient whole foods that you can kind of connect without too many dots to the earth. That's where you're going to get the best kind of nutrient profile. So yeah, adequate protein, adequate fiber to support your gut microbiome, to support, your brain health, because we know the gut brain axis is like at play as well. Your metabolic health. So a lot of pregnant women will struggle with metabolic dysfunction. Gestational diabetes is a real issue. So, making sure that you're getting your sugar fix or your sweet tooth fix from things like high fiber fruits instead of ultra processed refined sugars. A little bit of those are fine, but it's really about the consistency and the quantity that matters. In terms of teas and sort of spices, I think I drank chai
yes.
throughout my pregnancy because I wanted to create that kind of anti-inflammatory ecosystem environment within my body. I was very mindful about taking my vitamin D supplement. I was making sure I was getting enough omega 3s through fatty fish. And, like I mentioned, the fiber, the healthy fats, all those things. Something that really helped me postpartum, especially when it came to nursing, a lot of lactation teas, people don't realize, actually contain fennel and
Mm-hmm.
fenugreek. So, relying on some of those spices and having teas, when I would notice that my baby would get colicky and kind of have digestive distress, I would double down on the fennel tea. And I swear through nursing, I felt like it made a difference. We don't
Yeah.
have studies to really look at that, but it can't hurt, to
Yes.
really some of these gut health soothing spices.
100%. I mean, I gave birth to twins and I nursed them both for a year. And then I had my third and then nursed him for a year. So I was just like pregnant or nursing for like a stretch, a long time. I loved oatmeal with blueberries and flax every morning. I feel like that did wonders for my production. Of course, the methi, the fenugreek, I had it as a laddu, I had it as a paratha, I had everything. Lots of ghee. I feel like that it's almost like this lubricant that you need to be ingesting. Um, my lactation consultant did have me take some supplements called Malunge. That was just the one thing that I took, but I love that a lot of our home remedies solved, just the production. I feel like that's what your anxiety revolves around is, am I making enough?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And another thing, actually, I had this lovely Nepali nanny who made this amazing broth. It was a chicken soupy broth that had so many of the spices that you mentioned. And I drank that multiple times a week. That was just like, oh, just like chicken soup for the soul.
Yes, and soups are just a really great way to add more of that micronutrient density. So if you're somebody who's feeling nauseous and your appetite is compromised in pregnancy, relying on broths and soups to make sure you're still getting those nutrients is kind of a great strategy.
That's great. And now let's talk about perimenopause and menopause. We have these hormonal shifts that are happening in the body. So, how do we counter them?
Yeah, this is a topic that's really close to my heart because I am in it right now. I am
Mm.
in stage one of perimenopause and I'm noticing the shifts, and everyone in my community, whether it's my clients or my friends, are basically talking about, how to navigate this phase. So, there's some pretty important to recognize, like sobering statistics around perimenopause and women's health. So, the average woman will gain 5 to 15 pounds in the decade leading up to menopause. And I always say it's 2025. We're not interested in the number on the scale. We know that weight on the scale is not necessarily a measure of health. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, this weight gain in perimenopause and menopause comes with some unfavorable body composition changes. So, namely, what happens is the declining estrogen and the fluctuating hormones cause a deposition of what they call central adiposity or central fat or visceral fat, which is fat that is kind of in and around your organs. It's not the fat like on your arm that you may not like. That's actually healthy subcutaneous fat. It's fat deep within that is in and around your organs. And it can cause metabolic issues. It can be pro inflammatory. We don't want too much visceral fat. And unfortunately, that does tend to increase in perimenopause and menopause.
I remember watching Oprah when Dr. Oz would come on and show us that this is the intestine, this is, the liver, and what the fat looks like around it when the visceral fat. So, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, I think that's really important because very often people will say, well, I have too much body fat. I need to drop fat. And we'll talk about this in a second. But I think it's important to know that it's fine to have aesthetic goals and it's fine to be like, okay, I want to drop some body fat so I fit into my clothes better. That's totally fine. But from a health standpoint, the concerning fat is really the visceral fat. So the best way to know if you have too much visceral fat, the gold standard is something called a DEXA scan. It costs about $100. I recommend that every woman in their 40s get at least one DEXA just to see where's my visceral fat at, where is my muscle mass at, and what's my bone density. Because
Mm,
unfortunately, the medical guidelines say that you should get a DEXA at age 60. But we know that bone health can start to become compromised in perimenopause and menopause because of changing hormone levels. My mom in India has osteoporosis and recently fractured her hip. It's very common for women as they age to struggle with bone density issues, and you can prevent bone loss versus treating it. It's much easier to prevent. But if you don't
yes.
know where you stand, then you don't really know how to strategically, focus on it. So I do recommend everyone get a DEXA in their 40s, pay out of pocket. It's like $100. It's totally worth the investment. But if you cannot get a DEXA, you can use a crude measure, which is the waist to hip ratio. And if that is 0.85 or under for women, that is thought to be a sign of good health in terms of visceral fat. But if it's higher, it means that you probably have some visceral fat deposition and you need to focus on fat loss for that reason. The other body composition change that happens in perimenopause, which is not great, is that you tend to lose muscle. So,
Mhm.
unless you are very strategically working to maintain and build muscle, focusing on certain types of exercise, certain types of nutritional strategies, you are going to lose muscle. And so it becomes this kind of really unfavorable combination. Your visceral fat is going up, your muscle mass is going down. People will notice increases in inflammatory markers. They might notice increases in LDL cholesterol, triglycerides, their insulin sensitivity may go down, all the things we don't want.
Yeah. Yes,
The reason I
exactly.
paint this kind of dire picture is because we want to pay attention to these things and we want to try to prevent them before they happen. So there are ways to reverse it if it happens, but it's better to be proactive. So if you're early in perimenopause, you can start to think like, what can I do from a nutrition lifestyle perspective so I can prevent some of these unfavorable body composition changes for better health.
Yes, yes. And I mean, I think we're just like touching the tip of the iceberg right now, but you're going to be doing an event on menopause in the city. Anu Segal, our friend of founder of the Culture Tree, is hosting. It's called the Hot Spot. And we're so excited to see you along with Dr. Heather Hirsch on all things menopause treatment, what we should know, the fact that we're having these discourses is crucial.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot we can do. What I tell women is menopause and perimenopause requires a new toolkit. So the things that you did in your 20s and 30s may not cut it
Yeah.
during this decade. Women will always say to me, I didn't change anything. I do exactly what I was doing in my 20s and 30s, and I gained 10 pounds. The rules are different. It is a different game because we are up against these hormonal changes. Our sleep is being affected, which affects our energy levels, our desire to move, our stress is higher. We're the sandwich generation. Like we have
Right.
the young kids, we have the aging parents. So all of that is impacting our desire to move, our ability to, regulate our appetite, and it all kind of is at play. So we just need a different playbook.
Yes, it's so true. I mean, I know you know this. My mom has Alzheimer's. She was diagnosed like 5 to 6 years ago, and I wish that we knew when she had menopause, gone through menopause, and did all the gut health kind of reframing, so that that would have positively affected her brain health and her neurological footprint now. So yeah, we have to, and it starts in the gut.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm a big fan of nutrition as a tool, very potent tool, and movement in this life transition. And the great thing is, like every single thing that we do for preventing the weight gain in perimenopause and menopause is also supporting our gut health, our brain health, our cardiovascular health, all our metabolic health. So it's like a win-win.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Now I want you to just touch on some brands that we should know about, because you are very, very selective and mindful of those you endorse, and you do so well on social media. And so I want you to just take a second to share them here too.
Yeah, so I am selective. I work with brands. I do fun partnerships with them. I either develop recipes or do educational content around their products. One brand that I've been loving is a protein powder brand called Aura Organic. So you don't have to take a protein powder, but protein is very, very important during perimenopause and menopause because it supports muscle growth, which is a huge priority, but it also can regulate our appetite and our hunger hormones and our satiety to help with weight management. So I think it's fine to get all your protein from food, but I like to use the protein powder as a supplement once a day in my morning shake. And I love Aura because it's a plant protein. It has all the essential amino acids and it is third party tested for heavy metals, which can be a real concern with protein powders. It also comes with this really cool kind of polyphenol blend. So that's one that I've been loving. I also have been loving, from a gut health point of view, a new supplement that just came out. It's a whole food supplement from Zoe. This is a microbiome company in the UK, and they did a study, a 6-week study on this whole food plant based supplement for gut health, and basically found that it improved microbiome diversity, energy levels, overall health in 6 weeks. And it's basically nuts and seeds and herbs and spices and some mushrooms and seaweed. Like it's real food. And you just sprinkle it on all your savory dishes. So I've been loving that. And the elephant in the room for women in this period is alcohol.
Yes.
I am totally okay. I myself will enjoy, a couple of glasses of wine here and there, special occasions. Nothing is like villainized or off limits, really. But the truth is, alcohol hits different once you enter this transition. Our ability to metabolize it goes down. It really adversely affects our sleep. We're already prone to more anxiety and PMS in perimenopause and menopause, and alcohol worsens anxiety because it dysregulates GABA, which is our kind of anti anxiety neurotransmitter. So I think mindful drinking is a good goal in this life transition. So a brand that I love, that I work with regularly, is called Athletic Brewing Company. They make some of the most delicious non-alcoholic beers. So you can enjoy the ritual, that summer picnic, without all the negative side effects.
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh my gosh. We will link all of these in the show notes so that we can use them, use your code. It'll be great. Thank you. I love asking my guests this question. What is a mom sense moment that you can pinpoint? And by that, I mean a time in your motherhood journey where you trusted your intuition, your gut.
Wow, I feel like I have to practice mom sense moments every day. I have, for example, an 8-year-old daughter, and she is absolutely incredible, but she's what they call a deeply feeling kid.
Yes.
DFK, I think they're
Yeah.
called. Dr. McKee has a whole thing on DFKs.
Yes.
And I have to constantly check in with my gut about why she's acting the way she's acting. So if she's acting out, that famous saying, kid is not giving you a hard time, your kid is having a hard time. So when
Right.
my kids are acting out, quote unquote, I'm always like, what's causing this? What are they struggling with? I have to go back to that instinct versus the kind of like, I need to fix this and correct this and discipline them.
Right.
So I'm constantly having to use that gut instinct. And I'll be honest, okay, I haven't talked about this publicly too much, but my whole platform, Spice Spice Baby, was created to teach parents how to encourage kids to eat diverse foods. My son is an incredible eater. He's not picky. He eats everything. He's like the mom, the kid that the mom is like, look, my kid eats like kimchi and like
Like
oysters and all this stuff. My
amazing.
daughter is the total opposite. She's much more particular. I don't call her picky because she's not picky in the traditional sense, but there are certain foods she will not go near. And it's the total opposite of like everything that I wanted to teach on my platform. So,
Yeah.
but like that instinct tells me that she will come around. She's just going to take her time getting there. And by me forcing it or somehow making it bad is actually making it worse.
Hmm.
Motherhood, parenting is an act of surrender. It's like you do what you can and then you surrender the rest.
Exactly, exactly. So true. And now on to our fun rapid fire. This is going to just allow us to get to know you a little better. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Night owl.
Okay. And then do you run on your chai or coffee or matcha or something else?
Ooh, I definitely need caffeine in the morning. I do either matcha and coffee or chai and coffee. Usually two things of caffeine every morning, but early in the day because I don't want to disrupt my sleep.
Nice, nice. And could you share maybe what your favorite spice is right now? It's too hard to choose, but one that you're like, I've been using this a lot more lately.
Oh gosh, yes. I have been loving Urfa chili. So this is a chili from the Middle East, from Turkey, I believe. That whole area, it is smoky and silky and burgundy and very different from the chilies that we have in India.
Mhm.
I love the complexity and I've been putting it on everything.
Yum. And what is a go-to weeknight dinner for you and the fam?
Mm. For me, a go-to weeknight dinner would be a baked salmon fillet. So I might do kind of a garam masala salmon with like a mango salsa. I love combining like different flavors like that. So it has like that Indian infused vibe, but it's very kind of contemporary and light. And then I always do some veggies on the side. My kids shockingly actually like asparagus, so I might throw in some grilled asparagus with a little lemon zest and then like a baked sweet potato.
Nice, nice. And a food that you always travel with?
Ooh, almonds in my bag. Just easy, fiber packed, healthy fats, or
Yes.
pistachios.
Yes, satiating too. And what does wellness mean to you?
Wellness to me is about showing up fully in your life, feeling like you have the vitality and the energy and the resilience to show up fully, share your gifts with others, connect with others in a meaningful way, not feel weighed down by your kind of physical form, but actually feel light and energetic in your physical form.
Mm. A myth about menopause that you'd like to bust right now.
Oh my gosh. That it's about like a positive mindset and just like powering through, like our ancestors did. No, it's about using the tools to transition with grace and with intelligence and with science to reduce risks and feel good because we all deserve to feel good.
Yes. A book that changed your life? One, it's hard to pick one, but
Yeah, it really is. Okay, a book that changed my life. I'm thinking of one that I read recently, Martyr. I read a book, Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. It is beautiful. He's a poet, and it's just about like how you can find hope and meaning even when there is a lot of suffering around.
That's beautiful. And then lastly, a mantra or, quote that you live by.
Okay, it's cringe and it's gonna make people be like, it's like my kids would be like, cringe, mommy. I think we're all, part of some kind of divine plan, like divine intelligence. I think each of our lives is a miracle. I say that all the time. For us to be here right now is a miracle. So my quote is, this life and this kind of everything around us is a miracle and a very special gift. And what are we going to do with it?
Wow, wow. I love that. It's something that we can step into every day with, and more miracles will come to you
I
effortlessly if
believe
you have that outlook. Yeah. That's so great. Thank you so much, Kanchan. This was such a treat. Literally, pun intended. I loved it.
Thank you, Kanika. You're an amazing host, and I loved talking to you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode of That's Total Mom Sense. You can listen to the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for That's Total Mom Sense. You can learn more about my guests by logging on to www.thatstotalmomsense.com. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, where I'm most active on social media. My handle is @KanikaChaddaGupta. And if you have ideas for show topics or guests you can't wait to have on the show, write to me at thatstotalmomsense@gmail.com. And lastly, please rate, review, and subscribe to That's Total Mom Sense if you haven't already. Thanks for being in my tribe.